Hi everyone, welcome back. Welcome to Hawaii. I am on holiday. I had no intention of making any content whilst I was away, but I have been closely following all of this Colleen Ballinger, what word can we use? Certainly not drama. Her behavior goes so far beyond the word drama. Her interactions with underage fans goes so far beyond the word inappropriate. And on the face of it, I really didn't have anything that I felt I could contribute to the conversation until I was catching up on an episode of the H3 podcast in which they were discussing how Colleen and her best friend, assistant, whatever, would comment both positively, in their view, and negatively on the bodies of their fans, and how both of those scenarios had such a negative impact on the people who've come out to speak about it. Adam McIntyre is one of those people who's come out and detailed some of the comments that Colleen would make about his body, the ongoing impact of those comments, despite the fact that she would probably have categorized them as complimentary and positive, and fans whose body size was commented on in a derogatory way, in an insulting way, by Corey DeSoto and witnessed by Colleen, and Colleen didn't step in and say anything, and that there's been other reports of her body shaming Trisha Paytas, people in larger bodies clearly not being the ideal in her view, and people in smaller bodies being the ideal. And I'm not going to get into the Colleen of it all necessarily. I just think that it is a demonstration of a really, really important teachable moment, and why I champion the idea of doing our best not to comment on people's bodies at all. And I'll frame it by saying that people understand, it's pretty easy to understand why we shouldn't comment on somebody's body in a negative or derogatory fashion, regardless of what size or shape or whatever the context of that body might be. But they don't necessarily always understand why I even extend that across the spectrum of all comments, even in the end of the spectrum where we might think that that's a nice thing that we're saying about somebody, that we're complimenting them, that we're, praising them. Why I say that can be just as damaging as when we are being negative or derogatory about somebody's body. So 2 examples from this scenario to kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about. So there was a fan of Colleen's who went to a meet and greet, interacted with Colleen, interacted with Corey DeSoto, and her body was commented on in a negative way. She was told that she was too big to be in a photo with Colleen, or that Colleen wouldn't be able to get her arms all the way around her. Colleen said nothing. That fan has come out to say that those interactions, those comments, still play a major role in how they feel about their body, in how they process their body image, in terms of their self-esteem, in terms of their identity. And again, I think that's super obvious. Of course, being mocked or bullied or having something said about your body is going to leave that kind of impression, particularly when you are young, particularly when you're developing, particularly when you're so vulnerable to any kind of influence that tells you who you are or what your value is. And especially when it's coming from your role model, somebody whose content you turn to for comfort, and the people within their sphere, Colleen, Corey, right? Then on the other end of the spectrum, we have Adam and other fans with similar experiences, but Adam has probably gone into the greatest level of detail, wherein Colleen would compliment his body, provide positive reinforcement about his body and specific body parts, which is such a body checking behavior. Body checking being something we do to ourselves and that we do to others as well, where you're preoccupied on the body overall, but body checking is very often indicated by somebody's tendency to hyper focus and fixate on certain body parts. It might be a body part that they're insecure about. It might be a body part that they've been made to feel bad about in the past. And Colleen, interestingly, body checks other people. She hyper focuses on other people's body parts and then provides commentary on them, right? So she would compliment Adam and make comments about when he was skinny or smaller, probably truly believing that that's the highest honor and compliment to have that commentary made about your body. And what Adam has reported is that has had a similar long-term effect as the fan I was speaking about previously, where there was objectively a negative response to her body for being, larger than what Colleen and Corey consider to be like the ideal body size and shape, right? So two vastly different experiences, negative, positive, but the outcome for each of them, negative, right? Adam reports that he still has some of those fixations, that he sort of has to battle with that impression that she left, that, you know, one body is better than another body. Like I said, I think this is a teachable moment, because the end of the spectrum where negative comments are made, really easy for people to understand why that would be so harmful. Harder for people to understand why the quote unquote positive end of the spectrum, being complimented, getting all this positive reinforcement for weight loss or just your body appearing to be smaller, why would that be harmful? The reason why the impact is so similar in terms of the harm and the long-term damage which can be done is really demonstrated by what I've observed with clients over the last 6 years, which is that we're really telling these two people having different interactions, positive and negative, is that the message you're telling each of those people is the same, that their value and their worth and their identity is really hinging on their appearance, how they're going to be treated, how they're going to be accepted, how they're going to be celebrated, how they're going to belong. All these important, very human things that we want is really hinging on their appearance. So whether or not we're telling somebody there is an absence of that value, or we're telling somebody your value is dependent on you being able to maintain this thing that I am telling you is so important about you, that makes me value you to the extent that I will comment on it and repeatedly comment on it, is very limiting for that person. And that's what I hear so much from clients is, you know, I was told this growing up about my body or about my appearance, and all I could think was, I cannot lose that, or I'm going to lose my value. I'm going to lose how this person sees me. I'm going to lose my sense of belonging. I'm going to lose what makes me special and makes me valuable and makes me worthy. And if I don't have that, what do I have, right? So this is why I try to impress upon people that you might have the best of intentions in complimenting somebody on their appearance, in positively reinforcing what you deem to be attractive or valuable about somebody's appearance, right? But what you don't get to decide is how they interpret that, is how they absorb that, in what they tell themselves as a result of what you think to be just an obvious compliment. I can speak to that as somebody who has sat on both sides of those experiences. I spent quite a bit of time on and off throughout my childhood, my teen years, my young adulthood in a larger body, and had countless negative and derogatory comments made about my body that I absolutely internalized, that I absolutely believed were my responsibility, that I had an obligation to change my body in order to have access to all of those very human things that we all want, belonging, safety, etc., all those things I've mentioned. And then because I developed an eating disorder and my body changed and became smaller, the positive reinforcement, the affirmation, it wasn't just, oh, you look great. It was, now I belong, now I'm safe, now I'm worthy, right? And because I hadn't cultivated anything else that made me feel worthy, because no one had said my personality made me worthy, or my intelligence, or my creativity, so much focus was on, well, if you want these things, you have to change your body. And then when I did, and I finally got the response that made me feel human, not special, just human, I wasn't going to let go of that for anything. Just like if you were drowning and somebody brought you a life raft, you wouldn't let go of that for anything. Another reason why eating disorders being boiled down to superficiality or vanity really frustrates me, because that's not the message we're giving people. We're not just giving them a compliment, we're telling them something about their worth and value. And yes, there are some people who can hear negative comments about their body and it wouldn't make a difference to them. There are some people who could have positive comments made about their body and it wouldn't make a difference to them. You can't know which person you're interacting with, what the impact of your words might be. And it's not to say don't ever compliment anyone, but let's get creative and let's actually think about how we value people. I know our default, because we're conditioned to do this. This is not a blame thing. This is so much social conditioning. Our instinct is to comment on each other's appearance, right? Like, you could have not seen your best friend for 6 months, and quite likely some of your conditioning is to comment on their appearance, tell them how amazing they look, or maybe commenting on how their body's changed in some way that we think is a compliment. But if I were to ask any of you to write down 5, 10, 20, 50 things that you really appreciate about the people nearest and dearest to you who you might be making these body comments to, their body wouldn't register. If your friends come over, you probably don't make them get on a set of scales before they come in. You probably don't make sure they can take the perfect selfie before they're allowed to come in and hang out with you. So let's stop reinforcing that. Now, of course, you can do exactly what you want to do. I'm not your mum. But it's something just to take into consideration and just observe yourself initially. Like, is that your knee-jerk reaction? Is that your default? Do you find yourself just naturally doing it? Just observe yourself and be curious. You don't have to change anything overnight. That's what I did. Like, I was just like, wow, yeah, that really is my default. And it took quite a while to kind of unwind some of that wiring and put something new in. So like I said, this isn't big sort of Colleen Ballinger discourse, but I think it is an important conversation to have, because they are fairly common things that come up in the work that I do. On the topic, we are running a body neutrality workshop in October. So if you are looking for practical skills to improve your body image, to reduce that preoccupation, to be curious about and start disconnecting your body image from, dominating your self-worth, how you see yourself, talk to yourself, how much space it takes up in your brain, please come along and join us for that week. Very often we're told that there are no practical skills for body image, that it's something we've got to work on when we're right at the end of recovery. No, we have to help people to cope and tolerate some of those big body image feelings and experiences all the way through the process. You also don't have to be in recovery to benefit from it. We know that body image dissatisfaction and poor body image, affects people well beyond the eating disorder population. You don't have to have an eating disorder to find your body image is interrupting your life or making life difficult. So that link will be in the description box below. Love to see you there. Love to do those with you guys. Love to hear from people still to this day saying, still using those skills, because our relationship with our body is much like our relationship with other people. It's going to go through ebbs and flows and ups and downs. It's never going to be static, but it doesn't have to be distressing, and it doesn't have to be dominant in terms of how it impacts your self-talk, your self-image, what you do, who you're with, your relationships, all that sort of stuff, right? Let me know if you want some clips from Hawaii. I will put them in maybe the next video. I am going to go to the beach. I'm then going to go and get a lobster roll, because we don't really do those in Australia. I'm going to have a margarita on the pool deck on the roof of the building. And I'll probably see you guys. Well, I know that Holly and I are recording a podcast next week, so we'll have more content for you very, very soon. In the meantime, much love. Take care. Bye, guys. Hopefully see you in October.